Hello, welcome. I hope this is well. It may be your first session of World Sustainable Procurement Day, or it could be several in. Regardless of that, welcome. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're going to enjoy it. And welcome to our next session. We're going to be talking about packaging, sustainable packaging, plastics. It's a topic that has, I think, caught the imagination of consumers worldwide. I think when everyone thinks about sustainability as a consumer, you often look at the things that you're buying on the shelf. You look at the things it's wrapped in. You look at the things that arrive at your door. You look at how many boxes it's in. It's always a concern for consumers, which means it has to be a concern for business. Obviously, the world has woken up to plastic in recent years. In many ways, it's also dominated conversations and maybe even distracted from others. So it's an important conversation. Particularly if you're in procurement, obviously you're dealing with these situations and you're dealing with these materials every day, the work that you're doing. So it's a really important topic for us to be considering. My name is Oliver Hurry, so I'm going to be leading this session on sustainable packaging with you today. But it isn't just about me and it isn't just about the speakers that we've got here today. It is about you as well. And I want lots of questions in this discussion. Otherwise, the poor panelists will have to put up with my questions, which are fairly half-baked. So I want some proper questions from the audience. So please do put your questions into the Q&A. We're obviously recording this session, so please be aware of what you're saying and doing in the chat and everything else. But please do not let that stop you getting involved. We want to hear from you as much as possible. So it is a big topic. Everyone in the world is aware of it, and no better people than the guys we've got here today to discuss it. So the SPP wouldn't be anything without the champions, and we've got two fantastic champion companies here that had to be on the stage for this. Both Kloeckner, Pentaplast and Tetra Pak have been at the forefront of putting the goods around the world into really important packaging and sustainable packaging, whether it's films, whether it's cartons. It's absolutely critical that our products are kept safe, they're kept high quality, and they're kept sustainable. So it's critical to have these guys here today. So I'm going to ask these guys to introduce themselves in a little bit, and then we're going to hear from one, and then we're going to hear from the other. So they're going to tell a little bit of a story about the journey that they're on, and hopefully make it really practical and useful for you listening in. And no doubt we'll pick into a little bit more about what they're doing. So Yui and Francisco, can I ask you to introduce yourself? Maybe Yui, could you introduce yourself first?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. And I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for the for that great intro, Oliver. And first of all, big congratulations to the whole team that's made this happen. This event is fantastic, and I think it's a really great place for everybody to connect and get inspired. So thanks for having us here. My name is Yui Kame. Doing it in a minute. I'm really excited to be here. I've been doing sustainability for what seems to be a long time, but may not be as long as some others. Just over about 12, 13 years. And a lot of that actually has been in the packaging space. I'm really excited to be here and talk about it today.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We've known each other a few years and we've discussed this topic to death now. So hopefully we'll make it useful for others other than just ourselves as well. But Francisco, great to have you with us as well. Perhaps you can do a short intro as well.
Sure. Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, everyone, for fixing this really great event. So my name is Francisco Balas, and I work at Tetra Pak with sustainability for about the last 10 years, working with suppliers and engaging them in our sustainability journey. So very happy to be here today.
Excellent. So we've got a lot to talk about, and we've got lots to share. So perhaps we can start with your story, Yui, and what you've been doing with your business. And Kloeckner Pentaplast doesn't roll off the tongue necessarily as a company name, but it is actually one of the most important businesses in the world when it comes to this kind of area. And I think more and more people are realizing of the great work that you're doing. So yeah, looking forward to learning more about what you're doing as a business. And again, thanks for supporting the Sustainable Procurement Pledge. It's obviously, dare I say, in the DNA of Kloeckner Pentaplast. Obviously, everyone I've spoken to in the business seems to get the importance of this. So yeah, looking forward to learning more.
Great, thank you. So let me just set up the slides here to
please.
share. Give me 2 seconds.
And while you're doing that, Yuri, as I said, just a reminder, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you can in the Q&A. If it's a really, really good question, we might come to it during the conversation. If not, we'll probably pick the questions up at the end. But please do not think about anything else other than asking questions, and don't think there's anything such as a silly question. Do put them into the questions and we'll cover them. But over to you, Yuri.
Indeed. So thank you again, Oliver. So as Oliver just mentioned, Kleckner Pentaklass could feel a bit like a mouthful sometimes. So internally, we use the word or the acronym KP. And you'll see that that referenced publicly as well often. So I'm today here to talk about what we do in sustainability at KP. Really excited to be here. I think it's always good, especially a company like ours, who you may not have heard of, in the first go, to talk a little bit about who we are. So the first couple of slides are going to look very generic and very corporate. But if you can bear with me, I think it's important for everybody to know a little bit about who we are and what we do. Um, as Oliver mentioned, the packaging value chain is very complex, very, very mature, and it's been around for decades, much longer than I have. And I think one of the things to be aware of is that there are many, many players in the value chain, and we sort of sit in the middle of that value chain, as you'll see in a couple of slides. But kind of before we get there, we have a global footprint with 31 plants in 18 countries across 5 continents, and we serve actually a variety of end uses in terms of packaging. Here in the next slide, we broadly divide into 2 divisions, one being food packaging, and the other we internally called pharma and durables, but it goes just beyond just pharma and durables. We have some reach into the medical devices area as well. And when we say durables in one breath, we have a fairly long list of end applications there. So food and pharma, but a fairly long list of end applications that we deliver packaging into. Um, so that gives us uh, potentially a quite a unique perspective into the packaging space, as well as a broad set of suppliers that we work with as well. So we sort of sit in the middle of this very complex and global value chain. And this is a very, very wordy slide, or it appears so. But what it's trying to convey is a fairly concise and simple idea, which is that in this value chain, which we all are trying to make more and more circular these days, um, we sit in the processing and converting space. So if you think about plastics as being, in a very simplified way, raw materials being extracted, those being processed and converted, and then molded into end uses, and then being collected and prepared for next life at the end of its first life. Then you form this circle, and we're sort of right in the middle of the raw material producers and the end users in terms of application. Um, what this means is that we have both an obligation to our customers, as well as the consumer, as and indeed with across the whole supply chain, to contribute to the solutions of making things more sustainable. So we work very closely with some very large suppliers, as well as some very large end users and brand owners, to make things happen in terms of sustainability across the value chain. Um, I think many of you on this call will be in the position to be potentially our customers and users, as well as potentially some of our suppliers. So we'll try to bring, or I'll try to bring some of those 2 perspectives into the presentation today. Um, One thing that we're very mindful of when we think about sustainability and sustainable packaging, before we jump into sort of the products and what we do specifically and tactically, is to ensure that we are providing value across the value chain. So when we say value in terms of sustainable packaging and sustainability, we want to make sure that we're providing value in the sense of making the value chain better in terms of sustainability, making sure we drive those things that actually deliver and value to the consumers and respond to the demands that they have towards businesses. And the way we can do that is in three different ways. And again, a bit of a wordy slide. And this is something that we've developed over the past sort of year or so to try to understand. Yes, we're doing a lot of things on sustainability. We've got some key KPIs and we've got some really good goals, and we're making some strong progress. We're delivering on some very innovative products. But ultimately, what is it that we are trying to accomplish? How are we trying to deliver those things? And how do we want to be, if you will, remembered, as a partner, as a company? And those are three things when it comes to sustainability. One is having a focus on performance and value. So ensuring that whatever we do in sustainability, whether it's directly or indirectly, provides value to our key partners. And that is business value, sustainability value. Ultimately, those two are the same thing. But ensuring that what we're doing matters, right? And that's both commercially as well as sustainable in sustainability. And again, like I said, I think those two things ultimately come together. Um, the second piece here is as responsible and collaborative partners. So in sustainability, we talk a lot around responsibility across the supply chain, whether it's in human rights or in the way we do business and collaborate. Um, we want to make sure that as a partner to work with, we have that going through the ethos of everything that we do. So we do have a responsibility to the planet, but as well to our stakeholders, or as some companies are now saying, the planet is one of our key stakeholders. And we believe we must collaborate with everybody with a sense of urgency to deliver. So, as good partners is something that we want to ensure that we're remembered as. Um, and finally, and certainly not least important, is as a leader in innovative technology or product innovation. And in the next slide, you'll see a little bit about how we've innovated in the past on our products to ensure that sustainability is delivered through our products to our end users and customers. But certainly that needs to be a very core part of how we engage in sustainability, recognizing that the products that we deliver themselves need to enable a sustainable lifestyle and future, especially since we are serving into so many different sectors. So those are the three key things that we sort of kept in mind as we tried to drive forward our sustainability agenda. Um, and I want to make sure that let's see that this piece on innovation comes to life a little bit. So what I did was before we go into the sustainability kind of programs and goals and what we're doing, just put together this timeline, and you can see this on our sustainability report. But just to show that really sustainability has been around for a lot longer than what we have recently as a sector, or a set of professionals who've started using the term sustainability. It's been around for quite some time. So since some would even say since the 70s and 80s, but here on this timeline since the early 2000s. PET first being used in widespread packaging applications, bringing recycled material into those PET applications, and then ongoing, the company has won many awards and delivered a lot of products to ensure that there's greater sustainability through the packaging value chain. And we have sort of this purpose, this slogan for KP to deliver the sustainable protection of everyday needs. And I think that really captures the idea of sustainability and sort of commercial value coming together. So this is really just a slide to show how we've been progressing down this journey. Now, take a step back for a second, and the challenge that the company has been met with in the past, as we've really tried to drive sustainability through our products, is that sustainability, on the one hand, is very much about products, but on the other hand, over the recent years, has become much more than about just about products. It's become about the way we operate within the value chain, the way we operate with partners and with suppliers, the way we operate within our own four walls in terms of energy and environmental impacts. So it's gotten quite broad, and very, very proud to say that over the past couple of years, the company has really broadened its approach to sustainability beyond product innovation and delivering sustainable products, and taken a very holistic approach to sustainability. And the program is called Investing in Better. Um, and the program, excuse me, cuts across three different pillars. Now, close the loop being one pillar, very much focused on the product piece that I just took you through around innovation and ensuring that we deliver on circular economy goals and make sure that the products we sell are more and more sustainable. Now, two additional pillars have come into the picture here. One being work smarter, and work smarter is really around operational excellence, and that includes things like GHG emissions in not only scope 1 and 2 within our own four walls, but within the supply chain, so scope 3 emissions, as well as working with our suppliers, ensuring that some of those environmental impacts and goals are being met. Um, and Act responsibly is our third pillar, which is around human rights. When on external on external stakeholders, and on internal stakeholders, acting responsibly means operating a safe environment. So safety is key, is a key area, as well as employee engagement in ensuring our employees are engaged, inspired, and have a very strong sense of well-being. So we've created a very holistic sustainability strategy over the past few years, and that's been going quite well. And we've recognized the importance of placing sustainability at the heart of everything that we do within the organization, not only in the innovation and the product development of our business. So it's been a very key development over the past few years. Now, those three pillars, underneath them, we have a total of 10 measurable targets across those three pillars. And in each of the pillars that I just described, you'll see the specifics here listed. You'll see again on the close the loop, the goals are around circular economy and closing the loop, really product driven goals. On work smarter, you'll see that they're primarily operationally driven goals. And within that, we have a very key area, which is sustainable procurement, um, which I'll touch on in the next slide. And then on the third pillar, act responsibly, we have safety, employee engagement, as well as some of our human rights related and community related goals in here. And we're tracking against these. And full transparency, we've made some great progress in some areas, and in some areas we've had some challenges. But one thing that we for sure have done is learned. So we've learned what has caused those things, and we've learned that there are certain things that take a little bit longer than we expected, or things that could happen quite quickly, things where we need to be a little bit careful and mindful of, because the landscape around us is shifting. Happy to go into that in more detail if there are any questions around that. But certainly, it's been a very interesting adventure. And just to close on a final slide, and I can spend. I'm sorry, there are two more slides. One is, with any presentation, you're bound to have a slide where we're beating our chest a little bit. So I wanted to make sure that our team gets recognition for a lot of the work that they've done. So we've been recognized, by certain ratings, and um, as well as our report, and some stakeholders to have done a good thing by establishing this strategy. We also have some internal governance that's been structured over the past couple of years, an internal sustainability committee, as well as some governance around each of those three pillars to drive progress in each of those. And so we're quite excited about the progress that we're making. Um, now, and here, the final slide. So I think for many of you on the call, our business will be in a position of being your suppliers. And to some others, we would be, say, a customer, and you would be a supplier to us. So we see sort of a little bit of both sides of sustainable procurement. When we say sustainable procurement in one breath, but the way KP defines sustainable procurement is through these 4 areas that you see. So, of course, due diligence across the supply chain, human rights, and the risk assessment of those is a key area that we've been working on. We've just been really building the foundations of this approach over the past, I want to say, 12 to 18 months. And greenhouse gas emissions, I mentioned earlier, around scope 3 emissions. That's a key area where our team is doing quite a lot of work at the moment, engaging some of our top GHG emissions impact suppliers. And then, of course, around engagement, working with others, other companies, and other organizations to drive things forward within sustainable procurement and sustainability, and of course, ensuring that we have all the right policies in place and that those are followed. So those are the key areas that we are creating really foundations for our program for, and maybe I'll stop it there. I think I've used up my time, so I'll hand it back over to Ollie. But the quick whistle stop tour through the KP Sustainability Program, and I'm happy to answer any questions once Francisco has had a chance to speak.
Yeah, so that's great stuff, Yui. Yeah, I mean, it's great to learn a little bit more about a company that you perhaps have company people haven't heard of. I guess you sit so in the middle of that value chain that your people don't always realise A, who you are, and B, how important you are to the value chain. It's those organisations like yourselves that are in the middle of that value chain that play such a critical role in engaging up and down, I guess, and across almost in every direction to make sustainable procurement and sustainable packaging happen. So really interesting to learn more about you. So before we get into some questions, let's hear from Francisco and hear the other sort of perspective from Tetra Pak. And then I've already started lining up some thoughts, which I've shared with you just in our little private chat. So you can have a little look at those, Yui. But Francisco, over to you. Let's hear your story next.
Thank you. And very interesting what we have heard already. So what we want to share today is to go from some of the background as a company. So speaking a bit of the global context of Tetra Pak, our purpose, and then go cascading down into how we have been putting all of these aspects surrounding us into a supplier initiative that we have been driving for the last 2 years, helping us and our suppliers to go together into this change journey. To finalize, I will share some key learnings and next steps because after 2 years we have also have the time to gather some lessons learned and to make some of the needed adjustments. So starting a little bit with the context. Tetra Pak is a global company. We have a large global footprint with presence in more than 160 countries. We have both processing, packaging, and services, and we deliver almost 200 billion packages across the globe during the last year. So this is a number that we manage, and we see that more people and more solutions are needed. So it's really a large number that is also causing a large footprint in many ways. When it comes to our people, we are more than 25,000 employees, and that's the backbone of everything we do in sustainability as well. We have production places in all continents for the different areas of the business. So we really need to have a global perspective in what we do on sustainability. So now, when we look at what's driving us, we start with our purpose, and we have a strong one. So when we talk about this, it's about committing to make food safe and available everywhere. And sustainability has been at the heart of the business from the very beginning. So we talk about more than 70 years now. And if you go back in time, of course, we did not talk about sustainability like we talk today about sustainability, not either the sustainability challenges we have today. They were not in any way similar back in the days. But our promise to protect what's good is still guiding us. And many of those principles are present even today. So, for example, when we talk about resource efficiency, making more with less, I think that's very much connected with our current sustainability agenda. So going from the purpose, we go down into sustainability, and we have the food, people, and planet aspect. So that's what's defining our sustainability definition for Tetra Pak. We also know that sustainability is evolving. And when we talk about sustainability, we talk about the sustainable food system. So that's the starting point. And when we talk about packaging, we need to start from this systems approach. So it's very difficult to have it disconnected from the broader perspective. And the food system approach, of course, is bringing a lot of good. I mean, we need safe food available for everyone. But food systems today are not in balance. We have quite some challenges connected with the whole industry. I mean, the way we use land, the way we create waste, and so on. Then, of course, there are other impacts that are probably not counted for if you think about 2 years back, like the pandemics or the current conflicts going around in the world. So at the same time as we need to feed more people in the future, because we expect a very large population growth, we also see that we need to do more with less. So it's really part of the big challenge. And if you want to name one key sustainability challenge, and it's also been mentioned already, it's climate change. So up to 30% of the global emissions are connected to the food systems. That's a large number to keep in mind. So going now more from the challenge and the context, we also know that high performance packaging plays a critical role in today's global food systems deliveries. And we believe to handle these challenges, we need to work with the stakeholders. So supply chain is key in order to tackle some of these issues. And it's not only climate change. We also know that we have the packaging waste, and we have the impact on land and the finite resources, together with the impact on biodiversity. So it's a multi-stakeholder action that is needed to tackle these issues. We also know that when it comes to consumer engagement and to customer engagement, we do research on a regular basis, and these numbers you see here, they're just examples on how the engagement is growing. So every year we see these numbers increasing, and we see through this research that consumers are more aware of the role of packaging, and they're looking for companies that can deliver sustainable packaging in order to meet their expectations. So it's consumers, it's NGOs, it's regulators. We see an increased trend in legislative work, just to name a few of the stakeholders. So when we look at the context and then how to go more into the way we work, we have a strategy. And this strategy is guiding us in our work and decisions. And in 2030, we have put a strategy to lead the sustainability transformation. So we have 4 pillars, and sustainability is at the highest level of the strategy. So it has always been there as a key element, but now it's at the highest possible level of the company. And what we mean with lead the sustainability transformation, we mean to lead a transformation towards a low carbon circular economy, supporting customers in their sustainability journeys. And now if you want to go from the strategy to the next level, so how do we define sustainability? And here you will probably hear during the day that there are different ways of defining sustainability. And when we do that at Tetra Pak, we go from the strategy into our brand pillars. So we mean food, people, and the planet. And when we talk about the planet, we have 5 elements. So it's the food systems that we not only talk about food systems, it needs to be a sustainable food system. And in that is included climate, circularity, and nature. And underpinning all these pillars is social sustainability. We also know that these areas are interconnected, so it's not possible any longer to start with only one and then go to the next one. They will all have an impact on each other. So our ambition to get to this a more sustainable food system, we're on a journey to create the world's most sustainable food packaging. And to go into that direction, we will work with our suppliers. So it's not only about the development, it's about the sustainability performance of today, but also the sustainability performance of tomorrow. And to get to this sustainable packaging ambition, we need a package made solely from responsible source, renewable or recycled materials, fully recyclable and carbon neutral. So there are many elements into this ambition. And here is when we want to get more to the, how to do this in the way we work. And if you look how to make a difference into a supply chain perspective, we have worked for many years with our supplier partners. Just to give an example, in 2005, we had our first climate target. And when I came to the company in 2011, we had our first scope 1, 2, and 3 climate targets. So it's been a journey for decades from the very beginning. And in 2020, also taking the learnings from the previous experience, we launched a supplier initiative that we call Join Us in Protecting the Planet, that says 20 actions in climate, nature, and circularity, which are going to be the areas that are going to guide ourselves and our suppliers into the way we want to see sustainability in 2030. And the first call for action, it's reducing the greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by 2030. So this is upstream, so supply chain, with the final ambition to get to net zero by 2050, starting with a 2019 baseline. So basically, you put the emissions through the value chain, you calculate them, and then we're on the path to reducing 50% towards 2030. Already, we have been reducing 12% since 2019. So with the latest numbers, we see already that we have been able to remove a big part of those emissions. But a lot more, of course, needs to be done. Here you also can see nature and circularity, and these are areas that are less consolidated compared to climate, that has standards like the Greenhouse Gas Protocol for many years. But nevertheless, we decided to have these ambitions because we know they're the key elements as well for the 2030 sustainability world we want to see. Going to more the lessons learned, so we need to have from the beginning a strong internal alignment. So not just top management endorsement, which we have had from the beginning, but also make sure that we have regular updates and reviews with the different functions in the company to make sure we're going the right direction together. So without strong internal alignment, it's going to be difficult to have the engagement you want to get from your suppliers. And some of also the things we have seen during the initiative, the first 2 years of the initiative, there are some challenges. We still lack some standards for some industries when it comes to climate, but you can still start with collecting the data and working with suppliers. We don't have a food regulation when it comes to food safety for food contact applications. We have developments in the area, but it's still not fully in place when it comes to regulations globally. But nevertheless, that's an ambition we have, and we're working towards that path. Then there's still some uncertainties when it comes to traceability, data standardization, nature KPIs, but we know there are some of the initiatives like the Science-Based Target for Nature. So the most common message we hear from these people is that start now, and then you can adapt with the things as science is telling you, new things, as you learn new things. Some of the key learnings, as mentioned before, so the internal alignment is fundamental. And then to start now, so we didn't want to wait for the perfect standards or regulations to be in place to set a direction. We knew we had a strategy and pillars that were the right ones, and then the rest can be adjusted as we move forward. And then to work closely with the organizations and supply managers, that's absolutely fundamental. I mean, we're specialists, and we have counterparts with our suppliers that are also specialists and want to do good things. But if you don't have the procurement on your side and the procurement colleagues as ambassadors for this change, it's not going to be so easy, the journey. So this is making the whole difference, and they're going to be embedding your sustainability targets in the way you work. Some next steps. So this is my final slide on our supplier engagement. After 2 years, we realized that some of the actions were more enablers compared to the key actions. So we have reduced a bit the number of actions, and we're going to make some changes as we move forward, but keeping the 3 pillars as the strong ones, so climate, circularity, and nature. And then probably the final learning I would like to share is that you learn a lot from the suppliers. So when you pass targets, they will come up with really good solutions themselves. So let them feed you back the way they work, and some clarifications will be needed as we move forward, especially in areas that are new, like nature and water. So that has been key for us. And now we're looking forward to launch the supply initiative version 2 with these insights we have learned during the last 2 years. So thank you.
Excellent, Francisco. Yeah, I particularly like those reflections of supplier engagement, simplification and clarification. That can never be enough, I guess. You can never simplify or clarify things enough for suppliers, and it's a challenge for procurement because they have to do that simplification and that clarification. Maybe they can do the simplification fairly well, but the clarification means that they have to understand it, they have to appreciate, they understand there's some of the challenges there. So it's some really interesting questions. So both of you, I think we've got a really good insight into what you do. I think we understand your companies a little bit more. And I think, again, that's hopefully helped those listening in to understand what good looks like. And trust me, for those listening in, these 2 companies are pretty good at what they do. I know them very well. So they're a very good benchmark for what good looks like. So we've got about sort of 12 minutes. So we're going to rattle through some questions, guys. So I'm going to ask some questions, and I want you to give some very short answers. I think the inevitable question that's been asked is probably on the lips of most of those listening in that perhaps are sort of starting out on this journey in procurement, which is cost. So procurement is desperately trying to move beyond cost as a profession, but it still gets dragged back to cost. And sustainable packaging, there's an assumption that it costs more. So, how do you tackle that question, whether it's internally or you get raised it by suppliers, of this assumption that sustainable packaging is about higher costs? I guess, Yui, maybe if we come to you first, it comes down to reframing it as value rather than cost, and rethinking about what cost is, I guess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's absolutely it. On the other hand, I've also seen some things happen over the past, I'd say, 12 to 18 months, which makes me think that the uncertainty in the market actually is actually more of a hindrance than cost itself. In some ways, in some markets, you'd find that, for example, recycled material is much cheaper, and in some cases, you've seen it even crash in some markets in the past 12 months, and are you positioned, or have you planned to take advantage of that, or engage in that in that discussion to ensure that that you're going into that market and ensuring that market stays afloat, but also make sure that you're able to use sort of that cheaper raw material when it's available, in place of the less sustainable alternative, if you will. So I think it really is the fluctuation and uncertainty that I think we do also need to manage, and I think that's a big piece. as well as the other thing I'd like to mention is around collaboration. And one of the things that I'd really like to bring back is establishing more dialogue around what value added projects there could be that sort of cut across sort of this commoditization of packaging that often happens, to say what is it that we can do together to drive value across the value chain that ultimately in the longer term may bring down cost, although it may add a little bit of cost in the short term. And being able to start those conversations, I think, will be really important as well.
Good points. Good points. Francisco, anything to add on that question of going beyond just thinking about cost? How do you see it as a fuller picture?
Absolutely. So I fully agree it's about value, and we have had these discussions for a number of years, especially on climate data, low carbon products, and we really see it as an investment for the future. Just to give you an example, when we launched the initiative and we asked for climate action plan to go down in emissions, some of the suppliers were very advanced already, and they came back immediately with some plan. But some others took the opportunity to check, for example, the PPAs, power purchasing agreements, and the price does not necessarily need to be more expensive if you bet for long-term contracts, and in some locations, of course, in some others might be more challenging. So with the current situation, it was a good decision to bet for long-term contracts on energy, for instance. So it could be the other way around. And the same, some suppliers, when we started talking about sustainability, they were telling us we were ahead, or even awfully ahead. But we have very good conversations, and we see that now I don't think someone is awfully ahead. We're all realizing that sustainability is happening now, and we see regulations. And if you don't do this on time, I think it will cost you more in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 8 minutes left. Okay, so we're going to try and cover at least 2 or maybe 3 questions. So quick answers. Yui, I'm going to, because I know how much you love Scope 3. I know you love it so much. I'm going to come to you with that question. So obviously, customers asking you lots for data to do with Scope 3, and no doubt you asking your suppliers about data for Scope 3. So challenges of being asked about data for Scope 3, challenges of giving it to them?
So I think I'm quote Francisco here to say we just need to get started, right? Like, get some numbers on a piece of paper. I think is the most important thing. I think the complexity of the space, the number of data sources that you could use, and potentially going down this rabbit hole of your hundreds and hundreds of suppliers and trying to get as much primary data out of them, that could be a rabbit hole that could just lead to analysis paralysis. So really getting a number down on paper, identifying your hotspots, making sure you identify, here are the top 10 suppliers, or here are the top 3-4 materials or packaging types that add the most emissions to our business, and going after those in a very specific way. And then ensuring that you capture the data in a way that is consistent, but it doesn't have to be accurate to the nth level at the moment, because you have some very, very credible average data out there that you could use to benchmark. And I think getting started and creating that structure first is really important. And then you could go down the very carefully go down the path of trying to create a very specific supply chain mapping of what your Scope 3 emissions look like. That's very specific to your own supply chain. But I think first is getting something down on paper, and that's the way to sort of get over, I think, some of the data challenges that are often talked about.
Excellent. I'm going to move on to the next question. Francesca Cahill, who's a buyer at Every, the courier company, asks, in relation to food packaging, what are the key components that are included in the specifications, and how do you manage these needs between internal stakeholders? So aesthetics, durability, recyclability. So Francisco, how do you kind of balance all of those specifications, and how do you have that conversation internally?
Yes, I think that's a very good question when it comes to the package you have today and the package you will have in the future as well. So balancing the development needs, the customer requirements, but having sustainability in the specifications in a way. So it's about what you bring in as the material for the packaging needs to have sustainability as one of the as quality or other parameters. So it needs to be there because you will need it when you have the product. So it's better to start from the beginning in the onboarding and really have a mapped sustainability requirements already.
Okay, excellent. Now, for the last few minutes, I think the big burning question, I think, for everyone, whether you frame it in one way or another, is, I mean, you're two very good companies at what you do in this space on sustainable packaging. But I presume procurement professionals listening in that are in your customers may ask you questions that aren't very helpful. They could be asking questions that are more helpful. They could be supporting you more. They could be understanding you more. So perhaps as a kind of a message to broadly your customers' procurement teams, what sort of things would you like them to sort of think about differently or say differently or do more of or do less of? So perhaps we can start with you, Yui. So as a sort of message to your customers thinking upwards, what sort of things could they do to help you make sustainable packaging even more possible?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and thanks for the opportunity here to to ask our customers. No, but I think there are couple of key nuggets have already kind of been shared today say collaboration and ensuring that we work on creating value together. Um, what I think is really important for us is, and as Francisco mentioned earlier, that there's a lot of knowledge sitting in the suppliers, and if you could if you could think of ways of addressing some of the key challenges as procurement, not only like Ollie said, not only cost, but are there projects that that we could take on together? How about a value chain initiative that you'd like suppliers, customers to collaborate on? Those kinds of things really do get our teams excited when we talk to our customers. And if a customer says, "Hey, we have for example an initiative called Trade a Tray, which is food trays being brought back and being recycled back into food trays," you can imagine to be able to set something like that up, it takes an entire sort of value chain to be created of its own, to be created, including customers, recyclers, retailers, etc. And to have a conversation like that together with some of our partners, customers, and and retailers, etc., would be a very exciting thing, and that really gets things going internally. So if you could think bigger, and often we find that it's the customers' procurement teams that would really be the key sort of linchpin to really unlock that conversation across the value chain. So I think if you can think in that direction, it'll be really, really inspiring and very helpful. Maybe I think that might be the one big thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. Francisco, your thoughts? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I agree that that's. I mean, we need to have a system perspective when it comes to sustainability. I guess some years ago you could have your own targets and be good at those and show your stakeholders, like customers, that you're moving ahead. For example, certification, that was measurable. You go up in the number. But if you want to move to circularity and to really have full traceability, take care of all the social sustainability impacts and possible impacts, you need to have this system perspective and work together. So the new challenges cannot be fixed only by one company, no matter how big the company is.
Yeah, absolutely. So broadly, I think if you take one end of the spectrum and you've got procurement professionals perhaps demanding their suppliers reduce cost, well, I guess what we need is them asking questions of the suppliers to say, hey, other than cost, we've got these other areas of challenge, we've got these other areas of opportunity. How can you help us achieve those? So on one hand, it's demands about cost. On the other hand, it's questions about value, isn't it? It feels like there's that sort of relationship with suppliers, which is come to suppliers with challenges, opportunities, ideas, and problems, give them something to solve and fix, rather than demanding something that perhaps they don't necessarily understand. So it feels like there's a change in that dynamic, and that's where procurement professionals can move beyond just cost and make their jobs perhaps more interesting, is by creating those challenges and those exciting projects with suppliers, rather than just pouring more demand on them that perhaps isn't always helpful. So maybe that's too black and white, but I think that's a good way to perhaps end this session. Yui, Francesco, thank you. Brilliant. Great stories of what you're doing. And as I said, I'm sure you'll be welcome to take follow-ups from anyone that wants to come and see you. And trust me, guys, they're two great examples of what good looks like in sustainable packaging. So hopefully your suppliers are going to be sharing similar stories with you. Yui, Francisco, thank you very much. I hope you're going to stay with us for the future sessions. There's plenty ahead, more sessions coming up. So we'll hopefully see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.